Every organization, movement, religion generates an egregor, but magical orders generate them deliberately. They feed them through ritual. They structure them through symbol. They sustain them through the dedicated practice of their members across generations. Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott, and I'm really excited today to do a deep dive on the Golden Dawn. This is just the beginning of a series of episodes that I'm going to do to break down some of the secrets of the Golden Dawn. This is a secret order that taught the modern world how to create reality. I want you to imagine something with me. You're standing in the fog of Victorian London, 1888. Gas lamps flicker along the cobblestone streets. Somewhere in a quiet building away from the noise of the empire, a small group of men and women gather in a room draped in black cloth, lit by candles, surrounded by symbols older than Christianity itself. They're about to perform a ritual that will change the course of Western spirituality forever, and hardly anyone in the world knows they exist. This is the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, and by the time we are finished, you will understand why this single organization, which lasted barely 15 years in its original form, became the most influential magical order in modern history. You will understand how its teachings traveled underground through secret societies, mystery schools, and whispered lineages for over a century, shaping everything from new thought movements to the manifestation teachings you and I practice every single day. More importantly, you will understand how to use what they discovered, because the Golden Dawn was at its core a technology for creating reality. And the principles they codified are as alive and as potent as they were when W.B. Yeats walked through their temple doors, when Aleister Crowley memorized their rituals, when Dion Fortune carried their flame into a new era, when Israel Regardi, in an act of breathtaking courage, published their entire secret system for the world to see. This is a story about power, about imagination, about the hidden architecture of the universe and the human beings who dared to map it. And I promise you, by the end of this, you will look at your own practice of reality creation with entirely new eyes. The official story goes like this. In 1887, Dr. William Wynne Westcott, a London coroner, Freemason, and devoted occultist, discovered a collection of Cipher Manuscripts. These documents were written in a code that, when deciphered with the help of his colleague S.L. MacGregor Mathers, revealed the skeleton of an entire magical curriculum, rituals, grade structure, and elemental teachings drawn from the Kabbalah, Hermeticism, alchemy, astrology, and Egyptian mythology. Hidden among these pages was an address. It belonged to a woman named Anna Sprengel, a Rosicrucian adept living in Nuremberg, Germany. Westcott wrote to her, and the correspondence that followed resulted in authorization to establish an English temple of what would become the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Now, whether Anna Sprengel actually existed or whether she was an invention designed to lend legitimacy to the order, that debate has raged for more than 100 years. And honestly, it almost makes the story better, because the Golden Dawn understood something profound about the nature of reality that most people miss entirely. The origin of a thing matters far less than the energy it carries and the transformation it produces. Whether the Cipher Manuscripts fell from the sky, were discovered in a dusty Masonic storeroom, or were found on a London bookshelf, every version of the story has been told. The system they contain worked. The rituals transformed people. The practices opened doors in consciousness that had been sealed shut, and the results were undeniable. The first English temple, Isis Urania, opened in 1888. And within just a few years, the Golden Dawn attracted some of the most brilliant minds of the age. The poet W.B. Yeats, the novelist Arthur Machen, the actress Florence Farr, the occultist Aleister Crowley, the mystic A.E. Waite, who would go on to create the most famous tarot deck in history, the author Bram Stoker, who wrote Dracula, Algernon Blackwood, one of the greatest supernatural fiction writers who ever lived. These were accomplished, highly intelligent people. They were physicians, psychologists, clergymen, artists, and philosophers. They did this work because it delivered results that nothing else in their expertise could match. The Golden Dawn offered them something that churches could only promise: direct experience of the divine, personal contact with the forces that shape reality, and a systematic, repeatable technology for doing so. At the heart of the Golden Dawn system sits the Kabbalah, specifically the glyph known as the Tree of Life. And if you've spent any time studying reality creation, consciousness, or manifestation, understanding the Tree of Life will fundamentally upgrade your practice. The Tree of Life is a diagram of 10 spheres, called Sephiroth, connected by 22 pathways. Each sphere represents a different mode of divine energy, a different frequency of the one universal substance from which all things emerge. The Golden Dawn taught that the universe evolved from a single source they called Ein Sof Ur, the limitless light, and that infinite ocean of brilliance differentiated itself into these 10 distinct expressions. At the very top sits Kether, the crown. This is the deepest sense of selfhood, the ultimate root of being. It is the point where the infinite first concentrates into something that can be known. Below it, the tree branches into two pillars of polarity, Chokmah, or wisdom, and Binah, understanding, representing the fundamental density at the heart of all creation, masculine and feminine, active and passive, fire and water, expansion and form. These three uppermost spheres are called the supernals, and they represent the spiritual light that shines beyond ordinary human consciousness. The Golden Dawn taught that when you invoke this energy, when you open yourself to the descending power of the supernal light, it flows through your mind and sanctifies whatever magical work you are doing. This is the energy that actually creates reality. Everything else is just the vehicle. Below the supernals, you find the spheres that correspond to what we experience as consciousness and emotion. Tifereth, attributed to the sun, sits right in the center of the tree. It represents the ordinary human ego, your everyday awareness. This is significant because the Golden Dawn placed the seat of human consciousness at the exact center of the universal diagram. You are in the middle of everything. You are the balancing point of the cosmos. And below that, you descend into the realm of the elements, the emotional life, Netzach, attributed to Venus and fire, the intellectual mind, Hod, attributed to Mercury and water, and the astral plane, Yesod, the foundation, attributed to the moon. Yesod is particularly important for reality creators because the Golden Dawn taught that this sphere is the subtle electromagnetic substance upon which the entire physical world is built. It is the final template, the blueprint, the model. Change the pattern in Yesod, and the physical world must follow. At the very bottom sits Malkuth, the kingdom, the physical world, your body, the material plane. The Golden Dawn described it as the temple of the Holy Ghost, and beautifully as the actual tomb of Christian Rosenkreutz, the mystical founder of the Rosicrucian tradition. Your body is the tomb, your consciousness is the light sealed within it, and the entire work of magic is the process of resurrection, waking up inside the tomb and realizing what you truly are. When I first understood this system, when I really grasped the Tree of Life is a map of consciousness, and that moving through its spheres is identical to moving through states of awareness, it changed everything about how I approach reality creation. Because the Golden Dawn was saying centuries before quantum physics that reality is structured in layers of increasingly dense vibration, and that consciousness is the force that moves between them. The Golden Dawn organized its teachings into a series of grades, each corresponding to one of the Sephiroth on the Tree of Life. You began as a neophyte, literally a new plant, and worked your way up through progressively deeper imitations. The opening words spoken to every new candidate still give me chills. Inheritor of a dying world, we call thee to the living beauty. Wanderer in the wild darkness, we call thee to the gentle light. Long hast thou dwelt in darkness, Quit the night and seek the day. These are the words of awakening. They are describing exactly what happens when someone begins the journey of conscious reality creation. You quit the night. You leave behind the unconscious, reactive, habitual way of living that most people never escape and step into awareness. You step into the light. Each grade initiation was an elaborate ceremonial experience designed to impress specific spiritual forces upon the candidate's consciousness. The neophyte ceremony introduced the elements and the basic polarity of light and darkness. Higher grades explored earth, air, water, and fire in sequence, each element corresponding to a layer of the human psyche. By the time you reached the grade of Adeptus Minor, you had systematically confronted and integrated every fundamental force in your being. This is brilliant psychological technology disguised as ritual. Carl Jung himself noted the similarity between these magical practices and the processes he observed in his clinical work. Jung found that when his patients painted symbolic designs, mandalas, geometric patterns, images from the unconscious, it straightened out knots in their psyche and produced genuine healing. The Golden Dawn had been doing this systematically for decades before Jung wrote a single word about it. The grade system was essentially a curriculum for expanding consciousness, and what makes it extraordinary is that it worked whether you fully understood what was happening or simply performed the rituals with sincerity. The symbols and ceremonies bypassed the rational mind and spoke directly to the unconscious. They activated something deep inside the practitioner, something that many traditions called the higher self, the holy guardian angel, or what the Golden Dawn called the higher and divine genius. Now we arrive at the practices themselves, the techniques that the Golden Dawn developed and refined, which are still used by serious practitioners of magic all over the world. And when I say magic, I mean the art of causing change in consciousness and in the external world through the directed use of will, imagination, and energy. That is the oldest and most accurate definition there is. The LBRP, the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, which I have taught and have several episodes on, is where every Golden Dawn student began and where every serious practitioner still begins today. It's what they do before every Law of One session. Damien Echols, who I consider one of the greatest living teachers of magic, has said that performing the LBRP and the middle pillar exercise daily for 1 solid year will produce effects in your life comparable to being initiated into the inner ring of the Golden Dawn itself. A practice that you can do in your bedroom every single day that carries the accumulated spiritual force of over a century of dedicated practitioners. That is the power of what the Golden Dawn created. The LBRP involves standing in the center of your space, tracing pentagrams in the 4 cardinal directions while vibrating divine names and visualizing archangels standing guard at each quarter. Raphael in the east with the quality of air, Michael in the south with the blazing force of fire, Gabriel in the west with the deep power of water, and Uriel in the north with the stability of earth. You are standing at the center of a cross of light surrounded by flaming pentagrams and angelic presences. This is imaginative technology at its finest. You are using your body, your voice, your breath, and your visualization to create an energetic space, a sacred container in which transformation can occur. The Golden Dawn understood that the imagination is the primary creative faculty of the human being. They understood that when you build a vivid, emotionally charged inner image and sustain it with focused will, reality reorganizes itself around that image. Sound familiar? It should, because this is precisely what Neville Goddard taught. And it is exactly here that the Golden Dawn and the Neville Goddard lineage converge in the most fascinating way. Here's where this story gets personal. Israel Regardi was the man who published the complete Golden Dawn system in 1937, breaking the oath of secrecy that had protected these teachings for 50 years. He was also Aleister Crowley's personal secretary in the early 1930s. He was a trained psychotherapist who combined Reichian bodywork with ceremonial magic. He was, by any standard, one of the most knowledgeable and experienced magical practitioners of the 20th century, and Israel Regardi personally knew Neville Goddard. In his 1946 book, The Romance of Metaphysics, Regardi devoted an entire section to profiling Neville. He attended Neville's lectures at the Old Actors Church on 49th Street in New York City, where 400 to 500 people gathered multiple nights a week to hear this electrifying teacher from Barbados speak about the creative power of imagination. Regardi described Neville as a dynamic, handsome, and thoroughly disarming personality whose presentations of truth were forceful and sincere. He recognized that Neville's method, the practice of entering a drowsy meditative state and imagining the feeling of the wish fulfilled until it hardens into fact, was the distilled essence of everything the ceremonial magic traditions had been working toward. And here's the line that should stop every reality creator in their tracks. Israel Regardi, the man who published the entire Golden Dawn system, the man who studied under Crowley, the man who knew more about Western ceremonial magic than almost anyone alive, said of Neville Goddard, "Of all the metaphysical systems with which I am acquainted, Neville's is the most magical." Let that sink in. The master of ceremonial magic looked at all the elaborate rituals, all the pentagrams and hexagrams and divine names and angelic invocations, and declared that the most magical system he had ever encountered was one man standing on a stage telling people to close their eyes and imagine. This is staggering, and it reveals something essential about the nature of magic itself. All the ceremony, all the regalia, all the symbolic architecture of the Golden Dawn, every single piece of it existed for one purpose: to train the imagination, to develop the practitioner's ability to create vivid, emotionally charged inner states, and to sustain them with absolute conviction. The rituals were the training wheels. The imagination was always the engine. Neville had somehow arrived at the destination without needing the elaborate vehicle. His teacher, Abdullah, the mysterious Ethiopian rabbi who trained him for 5 years, gave him the direct method. And Regardi, with his encyclopedic knowledge of the entire Western magical tradition, recognized that Neville's approach was the purest expression of the principle that all magic ultimately serves. I've read all of Neville's lectures, I've recorded them, studied them, lived them, and when I discovered Regardi, the Golden Dawn's greatest chronicler, considered Neville the ultimate magician, it confirmed something I had felt for years. The imagination is the supreme magical instrument. Everything else is scaffolding. Be sure to check out the episode where I read Israel Regardi's chapter from that book. Among the Golden Dawn's most powerful practices, and one that bridges directly into modern reality creation work, is the middle pillar exercise. This technique was emphasized by Regardi above almost all others as the foundation of practical magical work. The middle pillar corresponds to the central column of the tree of life. In this practice, you visualize a sphere of brilliant white light above your head, the Kether center, your connection to the infinite. You vibrate divine name Ehyeh, which translates as I am, the same name God gave to Moses from the burning bush, and the same principle Neville Goddard placed at the absolute center of his teaching. You then draw the light down through a series of energy centers along your body: the throat, Da'ath, the heart, Tifereth, the solar plexus region, Yesod, and the feet, Malkuth. Each center is activated with its own divine name, its own color, its own frequency. By the time you complete the exercise, you've established a column of divine light running from the crown of your head to the soles of your feet. You have become the living tree of life. Damien Echols practiced this exercise for hours every day while he sat on death row for nearly 2 decades. A man wrongfully convicted of murder, locked in a concrete cell, beaten by guards so severely he urinated blood, and he used this practice from the Golden Dawn to maintain his sanity, to feed his spirit, and ultimately generate the energy that contributed to his freedom. Damien has described how he would spend 8 hours a day doing magical work in his cell. He would trace pentagrams in the air, vibrate divine names, circulate energy through the middle pillar centers, and he has said openly that the Wicca of his youth seemed superficial once he encountered the Golden Dawn system, because the Golden Dawn offered a precise, systematic technology for transforming consciousness. I love Damien Echols, and I'm really hopeful that we're going to get him on the program and interview him. I believe he's one of the best teachers of magic currently alive because he proved something that most people only theorize about, that these practices work even in the most extreme conditions imaginable. When you have absolutely zero physical resources, when the entire external world is aligned against you, the internal world, the world of imagination, will, and energy still responds. The technology still functions. The architecture of consciousness still holds. This is the ultimate test of any system of reality creation. Does it work when everything else has been stripped away? The Golden Dawn system passed that test through Damien Echols, and Neville Goddard's method passes it every single day through the thousands of practitioners who are proving it in their own lives. Here's something I want you to understand because it will transform how you approach a spiritual practice. I know that some of you do not believe in magic, and I understand that. This does not have to be true to you. When you perform a ritual that has been performed by thousands of people over more than a century, you are tapping into something far greater than your own individual effort. The Golden Dawn rituals have been performed by dedicated practitioners since 1888. Every single time someone traces a pentagram in the air, every time someone vibrates the name of an archangel, every time someone walks the circumambulation of a temple, physical or imagined, that act creates an impression in what we might call the Akashic field. It leaves a trace, it deepens a groove, it adds energy to a pattern that already exists in the subtle fabric of reality. When you sit down today and perform the Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, you are accessing the accumulated spiritual charge of over 130 years of practice. You are plugging into a current that has been strengthened by Yeats, Crowley, Regardi, Dion Fortune, by Damien Echols, and by countless anonymous practitioners who dedicated their lives to this work. The ritual has power because of the Akashic memory of every prior performance. This is why lineage matters in magical traditions. This is why established rituals carry a force that newly invented ceremonies simply cannot match, because they have been done. They've been lived. The Akashic field remembers them. And when you reproduce the same pattern, you access the full depth of that memory. Think about this in terms of Neville Goddard's teaching on states of consciousness. When you enter a state, when you assume the feeling of wealth or health or love, you are entering a pre-existing structure in consciousness. That state already exists. It has been occupied before by others. You are tuning in to its frequency. The Golden Dawn rituals function the same way. They are pre-built states of consciousness, refined and charged by generations of practitioners, waiting for you to step into them. I incorporate this understanding into my own practice when I work with the techniques I teach on this channel: reality transurfing, quantum jumping, future self techniques, the work of Neville Goddard, the Law of One material. I am aware that I am accessing streams of practice that have been energized by millions of people, and that awareness amplifies the effect. You are joining a current. You're adding your energy to an ancient river, and the river carries you. One of the most extraordinary things about the Golden Dawn is how thoroughly it influenced the esoteric landscape of the 20th century, usually without anyone realizing it. When the original order began to fracture in the early 1900s, its members scattered and carried the teachings into every corner of the Western mystical world. Aleister Crowley left to form the AA and the OTO, embedding Golden Dawn rituals and Kabbalistic correspondences into his thelemic system. A.E. Waite took the mystical branch of the work and created the Waite-Smith Tarot deck, the most widely used tarot deck in history, whose imagery is saturated with Golden Dawn symbolism. Every time someone picks up a Rider-Waite tarot deck, they are handling Golden Dawn technology. Dion Fortune split off to form her own group, the Inner Light, which I discussed in a previous episode on the woman who weaponized magic. And she wrote books like The Mystical Kabbalah and Psychic Self-Defense that became foundational texts for modern occultism. Her student Gareth Knight continued the lineage, and through Fortune's influence, Golden Dawn principles filtered into the modern Wiccan and neo-pagan movements, providing the ceremonial structure that Gerald Gardner wove into the foundation of Wicca. Israel Regardi's publication of the complete Golden Dawn system in 1937 was the earthquake that shattered the veil of secrecy forever. As one commentator noted, this single book has been the foundation for much of the occult revival of the last half of the 20th century. It provided resource materials for Wicca, modern paganism, and dozens of magical groups. It gave tens of thousands of serious students a complete curriculum for spiritual development. The teachings also flowed into the world of psychology. Regardi was a practicing psychotherapist who saw the direct parallel between magical initiation and Jungian individuation. Jung himself had noted that the symbolic work his patients did, painting mandalas, working with archetypal images, produced therapeutic effects identical to what the ceremonial magicians described. The Golden Dawn system was depth psychology before depth psychology had a name. And then there is the connection to the New Thought and manifestation movements. Neville Goddard, as we have discussed, was personally known to Regardi and was considered by him to be the most magical practitioner he had ever encountered. The principles underlying Neville's teaching, the creative power of imagination, the importance of entering specific feeling states, the identity of consciousness with God, are the same principles that Golden Dawn encoded in their elaborate ceremonial system. The Golden Dawn is the root system beneath the visible forest. Whether you practice tarot, Kabbalah, ceremonial magic, Wicca, chaos magic, Neville Goddard's imaginal techniques, or any form of modern manifestation work, you are standing on ground that the Golden Dawn prepared. The Golden Dawn assigned each initiate 4 elemental weapons: the wand, fire; the cup, water; the dagger, air; and the pentacle, earth. These correspond to the 4 letters of the divine name Yehovah, the Tetragrammaton, and to the 4 fundamental forces required for the manifestation of any intention into physical reality. The wand represents will. It is the initial impulse, the desire, the spark that says, "I choose this." In Neville's language, it is the moment you decide what you want. The cup represents the emotional and receptive faculty, your ability to feel the wish fulfilled, to receive the impression of the desired state. The dagger is the discriminating intellect that cuts away doubt, distraction, and conflicting beliefs. And the pentacle is the physical anchor, the final step of grounding the intention into material reality. Every act of reality creation follows this sequence. You decide what you want, the wand. You feel it is already accomplished, the cup. You eliminate contradictory thoughts and beliefs, the dagger, and you ground it into physical expression through action and embodiment, the pentacle. The Golden Dawn insisted that each student personally manufacture their own magical instruments. They taught that the act of creating these physical symbols, painting them, carving them, consecrating them, activated something dormant within the practitioner. The instruments were expressions of inner realities projected outward, and once created, they reacted upon their maker. They became, as the order taught, true talismans of power. The principle applies directly to your manifestation practice when you create physical anchors for your intentions, vision boards, written affirmations, symbolic objects, even the physical space where you meditate. You are manufacturing your magical weapons. You're externalizing inner states and giving them form, and those forms react upon you. They reinforce the state. They deepen the groove. They make the invisible visible. One of the most distinctive practices of the Golden Dawn was the Vibratory Technique, the practice of intoning divine names with the entire body until you felt the vibration resonating through every cell of your being. This was treated as a core technology, and Regardi emphasized it above almost everything else in the curriculum. The idea is straightforward but profound. Certain combinations of sounds, when spoken with full concentration and emotional engagement, produce measurable effects on consciousness and on the subtle energy field of the practitioner. The Hebrew divine names used in Golden Dawn rituals, Ehyeh, Yehovah, Elohim, Shaddai, El Chai, are believed to encode specific frequencies that correspond to different levels of the tree of life. When you vibrate the name I am. You are doing something remarkably similar to what Neville Goddard taught when he said that the foundation of all reality creation is the awareness of being. I am is the creative principle itself. It is the ground from which all manifestation springs. The Golden Dawn ritualized this truth and built an entire technology around it. Modern science is beginning to catch up with this understanding. Studies on sound healing, mantra meditation, and the effects of vocalization on the autonomic nervous system all point to the same conclusion. Sustained, intentional sound production alters brain states, shifts emotional frequencies, and creates measurable changes in the body's electromagnetic field. The Golden Dawn practitioners discovered this through direct experience more than a century ago. And there's something else happening when you vibrate these names. You are participating in the Akashic memory of every practitioner who has ever vibrated them before you. The sound carries history, intention, the concentrated spiritual energy of more than 100 years of dedicated practice. When you open your mouth and intone with sincerity and focus, you are plugging into a current that runs all the way back to the founding of the Isis Urania Temple in 1888. And the Golden Dawn would argue far beyond that into the ancient Egyptian and Hebrew traditions from which these names originally emerged. Among the most extraordinary rituals preserved in the complete Golden Dawn is the ritual for transformation. In this ceremony, the practitioner takes on the form of a deity, most often Isis, the great mother of the Egyptian pantheon, by building up an imaginative body around themselves until it becomes almost physical. The instructions say to formulate the desired form without fear, and to feel yourself actually in the shape desired. The ritual guide says the form should seem like a cloud of mist enveloping you, but yet wholly visible. And then you are instructed to move through the temple space entirely enshrouded by this new form, declaring, "Thus have I formulated unto myself this transformation." This is future self-work. This is precisely what I teach on this channel about stepping into the version of you that already exists in a parallel reality. The Golden Dawn codified this process into a formal ritual more than a century ago. They understood that identity is fluid, that the self can be consciously reconstructed, and that the act of imaginatively assuming a new form produces real changes in the practitioner's consciousness and eventually in their external reality. The transformation ritual asks you to vibrate divine names, to invoke archangelic forces, and to sustain the imaginative form until it becomes a living presence. You are told to address the form directly, to command it to be open to the divine presence, the understanding and love of the supernals. You are speaking to your future self as if it already exists, because in the Golden Dawn's understanding of the Tree of Life, it does. Every possible version of you already exists as a pattern in the subtle architecture of reality. The ritual simply helps you inhabit it. When I work with the Future Self technique, and this is the central technique to everything I teach in Reality Revolution, I am drawing on this exact principle. The difference is that I have stripped away the elaborate ceremonial framework and condensed it into a direct, accessible practice. But the underlying mechanics are identical. You build the image, you feel the reality of it, you sustain it with focused attention and emotional conviction, and allow it to transform you from the inside out. There's a concept in magical tradition that I want to introduce to you because it unlocks an entirely new dimension of understanding about why these practices work and why they become more powerful over time. The concept is the Egregor, and it's the same thing as a pendulum. But an Egregor is a conscious pendulum. And the Golden Dawn was using pendulums and Egregors before we even knew about them. An Egregor is a collective thought form, a living, autonomous energy pattern created by the sustained focus, intention, and emotional investment of a group of people over time. Every organization, movement, religion generates an Egregor, but magical orders generate them deliberately. They feed them through ritual. They structure them through symbol. They sustain them through the dedicated practice of their members across generations. The Golden Dawn created one of the most potent egregores in the history of Western esotericism. Every ritual performed in its temples, every grade initiation, every vibration of a divine name, every visualization of an archangelic form, all of it contributed to the growth and strengthening of this collective spiritual entity. And here's the key: the egregore gives back. When you connect to it through practice, it supports you, it amplifies your work, it provides guidance, protection, and a quality of spiritual energy that individual practice alone can rarely generate. This is why tradition matters. It's why Damien Echols emphasizes practicing within established magical frameworks rather than simply inventing your own rituals from scratch. There is immense creative power in innovation, of course, but when you practice within a lineage, you plug into a current of accumulated spiritual force that has been building for decades or centuries. You're drawing on the egregore. Neville Goddard tapped into something similar through a different channel. His teacher Abdullah connected him to an ancient stream of Kabbalistic and mystical knowledge that stretches back thousands of years through the Hebrew tradition. When Neville taught the practice of I Am consciousness, he was connecting his students to one of the oldest and most powerful egregores in human spiritual history, the accumulated energy of every mystic, prophet, and practitioner who's ever worked with the divine name. Here's what this means for you. Every time you practice, you are adding to the current. Every time you sit in silence and feel the reality of your desired state, every time you affirm your identity as the creator of your experience, you are strengthening the egregore of awakened consciousness itself. You are making it easier for the next person who follows. You're contributing to a spiritual force that is larger than any individual life. The Golden Dawn had a name for the supreme goal of all magical practice. They called it the Great Work, defined as the knowledge and conversation of the higher and divine genius. In modern language, this means establishing a conscious, ongoing relationship with your higher self, the infinite divine aspect of your being that exists beyond the limitations of personality, circumstance, and physical form. Everything in the Golden Dawn system, every ritual, every grade, every symbol, every practice, was oriented toward this single objective. The pentagrams, the divine names, the elemental weapons, the tree of life meditations, all of it served as preparation and technology for achieving conscious contact with the divine within. Regardi was explicit about this. He warned students against performing magical ceremonies for trivial purposes or treating the forces of nature as toys. He quoted the order's own teaching, "Know thou that this is to be done with solemnity, ceremony, and reverence. Unless thou doest thy practical magical works with sincerity, thou shalt be like an infant playing with fire, and thou shalt bring destruction upon thyself." But here's the beautiful paradox at the heart of the work. When you achieve genuine contact with your higher genius, when you align your consciousness with the deepest truth of your being, the external world reorganizes itself around you. It is the same as connecting with your future self. The manifestation happens as a natural byproduct of the alignment. You stop trying to create reality and start allowing reality to express through you. This is the stage beyond technique. This is what Neville Goddard described when he spoke about mystical experiences in 1959, the experience of being reborn from his own skull, the descent of the Holy Spirit as a dove. These were transformations that went beyond the manifestation of specific desires. They were encounters with the divine source from which all manifestation flows. This is the ultimate gift the Golden Dawn offers to the modern practitioner. Yes, you can use these principles to manifest money, relationships, health, and success, and I'm going to do deeper dives on that in future episodes. The principles work for these purposes, and they work magnificently. But the deeper invitation is to discover who you actually are beneath all the desires and fears and conditioned responses. The deeper invitation is to meet your own divine nature face to face. Because when you do, when you truly make contact with the higher and divine genius that the Golden Dawn spent decades building technology to reach, you will discover that you have always been the magician. You've always been the one creating. You've always been the light sealed within the tomb waiting to remember itself. We live in an age of unprecedented access to spiritual knowledge. The teachings that were once guarded by oaths of secrecy and available only to those who passed through elaborate initiatory processes are now freely available in books, online courses, YouTube videos, at archive.org, podcasts like this one. But access alone is insufficient. Understanding is required, and the Golden Dawn offers something that scattered surface-level exposure to magical concepts simply cannot provide: a complete, integrated, systematic curriculum for the development of consciousness. The Tree of Life gives you the map, the grade system gives you the journey, the rituals give you the technology, the elemental weapons give you the tools, the divine names give you the keys. And the overarching philosophy that you are a divine being temporarily housed in matter, capable of awakening to your true nature through disciplined practice, gives you the reason. I'm constantly looking for ways to bring these deep teachings to you in a form that is practical and accessible and immediately useful. That's why I study everything: Neville Goddard, Vadim Zeland, the Law of One, the Arcturian Council, Edgar Cayce, the quote channelings, and yes, the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. I haven't covered it the entire time I've been on the podcast, but I believe that now is the time to discuss this because all of these streams flow from the same source. They're all describing the same underlying reality, and the more angles you have on that reality, the more powerfully you can work with it. Here's what I want you to take away from everything we've explored. Magic is real. It is a technology as old as human consciousness itself. The Golden Dawn codified it into a system. Neville Goddard distilled it into its purest form. Damien Echols proved it works even in hell. And you, sitting wherever you are listening to this, have access to all of it. The Lesser Banishing Ritual of the Pentagram, the Middle Pillar exercise, the practice of vibrating divine names, the assumption of God forms and future self-identities, the deliberate creation of sacred space through imagination and will, the feeling of the wish fulfilled, held in the drowsy state between waking and sleeping. These are all expressions of the same fundamental principle: consciousness creates reality. The Golden Dawn members understood this. They dressed it in robes and ritual because that was the language of their time. Neville understood it. He dressed it in biblical interpretations and first-person testimony because that was his gift. Damien Echols understands it. He dresses it in ceremonial practice and direct no-nonsense teaching because that's his power. And you understand it now. Perhaps you understand it before you ever heard of any of these teachers. Perhaps you have always sensed that there is a deeper current running beneath the surface of ordinary life. That reality is more responsive than most people realize. That your thoughts and feelings and imaginative acts carry a creative force that science is only beginning to measure. You are right. You've always been right. The Golden Dawn was established as a new dawn for occultism. The name itself carries the prophecy. A new dawn is always coming. A new light is always rising, and that light is consciousness. Your consciousness waking up to its own creative power. The Fama Fraternitas, the founding document of the Rosicrucian tradition from which the Golden Dawn descended, opens with these words: "It is fitting that before the rising of the sun there should appear and break forth aurora, or some clearness or divine light in the sky." You are the aurora. You are the divine light breaking forth. Every time you sit in meditation and imagine a better reality, every time you feel the wish fulfilled, every time you vibrate a sacred sound or trace a pentagram in the air of your bedroom, you are participating in the great work that the Golden Dawn set in motion more than a century ago, and that work has never stopped. It is alive in you, in this moment, in every breath and every intention you carry forward into the world you are creating. Before I go, I want to invite you to join the Reality Revolution community. You can find the link in the description at school.com, skool.com/Reality Revolution, where I hold weekly group coaching sessions. You can find exclusive content. You can find audiobooks that you will not find anywhere else. There is incredible training modules and an incredible group of people that work together to help you manifest your dreams. I'd love to invite you to all of our future events. Be on the lookout. The links are in the description. We have an event in Anaheim coming up on July 24th through the 26th where you get to come home to your greatest reality. I hope to meet you and see you there. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com, and welcome to The Reality Revolution. There's a version of your life where everything you've been reaching for arrives, where the money flows, where love opens, where your body heals, where every step carries the frequency of the self you were always meant to be. That life exists, and the path to it has been 8 years in the making. This July, The Reality Revolution comes home to Anaheim. 3 full days of teaching, meditation, and timeline activation. 9 complete sessions designed to move you from the life you're living to the life that is waiting. Activate your pineal gland, meet your higher self, quantum jump into your greatest timeline, enter the bliss body healing state, step into the flow of large sums of money, open fully to love, shift into a higher density new earth. Friday night, the community celebrates together. Saturday evening, a special appearance from Daryl Anka. And by Sunday evening, you walk out as the version of yourself your future self has been waiting for.
I knew I had to be in the room because it's different from like listening to the meditation videos online.
It was really getting into yourself and how you feel and your timelines.
It's time at the event, and it really is. It's wonderful. So I would highly recommend to anyone, if you get the opportunity to do it, absolutely do it. It really is amazing.
The Reality Revolution live in Anaheim, July 24th. 25th and 26th at the Hilton Anaheim, 3 days that will change the trajectory of your life. Early bird pricing is available now. Claim your seat at www.brianscottlive.com/Anaheim.